Have you been dreaming about a move to Portugal, but want to know what it really costs to live here as an expat?
We get it. I mean, that was exactly us when we were researching our move to Portugal. But today we're going to pull back the curtain on some real costs of living here.
That's right. We're looking at everything from healthcare to housing and everything in between.
And this is not just numbers that we're pulling off of Google or other things. These are our real life expenses from living here on the Silver Coast. Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dawn, and in 2023, we unretired and moved abroad. Now we live on the Silver Coast of Portugal.
Now look, we're somewhere between budget and bougie. I mean, we like a good deal, but we also like to have a glass of wine and watch the sunset.
Yeah, and we think that's helpful as we talk about some of the numbers that we're going to share with you today. And by the way, this is really a video about our day-to-day living costs. It doesn't include travel. Let us know if you'd like to see a separate video about that.
Also, for context, we live in a home that has 2 3-bedroom flats, and we live in one and rent out the other. But we're only going to be talking about the expenses for the unit that we live in.
So if this is the kind of content that you want to see more of, we encourage you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you never miss a new video. We also have a free weekly newsletter and an Instagram account, and we'll leave those links below. So let's start with housing. This is the big one and everyone asks about it, but really a lot of this is going to depend on where you live and how you live, how big of a place that you want, renting or buying. There's a lot of factors here.
Well, so we bought our property in 2022, and it's a 2-unit, as I mentioned before, it's a 2-unit place that has 2 3-bedroom flats, and we live in the lower one and we rent out the top one. We bought this place for 410,000 euros. So we're walking distance to town and about a 15-minute walk to 2 beautiful beaches here in Nazaré. It's really a good setup for us.
That said, prices have gone up quite a bit on the Silver Coast since we originally purchased. We wouldn't be able to buy this same property for the same price in the same location today.
I think that's right, but there are still deals to be had on properties here in the Silver Coast, and we just recently did a video on what 400,000 euros can buy you here on the Silver Coast.
Yeah, we'll link that video above. And whether you rent or buy, Portugal really does have something for every kind of lifestyle, whether you want something rural or something in the city or anything in between.
That's right, and if you do decide to buy, you ought to know, mortgage rates here remain incredibly low. And property taxes are very, very low compared to what you have experienced, especially if you've been coming from the United States.
If you're just getting started and wondering where you can go for research, we recommend idealista.pt as a great starting point.
Let's talk about basic monthly costs. And we're going to be describing these costs in euros. And as we film this, the euro is about $1.08, $1.09. So groceries, we spend about 500 euros a month. And look, that's really without budgeting. If we really wanted to make this less expensive, we probably could. But we eat well at home. Secondly, electricity. Now, electricity ranges for us between summer and winter because where we live, we don't require air conditioning. And in the winter, our heat is electric heat. So it's more expensive in the summer, more expensive in the winter than it is in the summer. In the summer, we spend about 90 euros a month in electricity. And in the winter, we spend about 325 euros a month for electricity. Now, water runs us about 115 to 120 euros per month. Now, it's a little more expensive for us than it probably would be for other people because we have a garden and we have an irrigation system that runs, so that's probably part of it. We have a deal for our internet, our cable TV, and 2 mobile devices. All of that combined runs 89 euros per month. And haircuts, you know, I spend 10 euros to get a haircut.
I spend a little bit more. I actually don't remember what I pay. I'm overdue for a haircut, but it is significantly less than anything I paid in the US. One of the things that we absolutely love about living here in Portugal is that there is so much to do without spending a ton of money.
It really is seriously an outdoor person's dream, I think. You know, and one of the best weekend things that we do is Dawn picks a random point from a Google map here in Portugal from, you know, within a couple of hours, and we just take the back roads and explore Portugal and go to these unusual spots.
Yeah, this has been so much fun because we have stumbled across some really amazing finds. So, for example, we found a replica of the Eiffel Tower in a small rural village here in central Portugal. We have stumbled across castles and Roman ruins and old monasteries and man, I mean, the list goes on and on. We love history. We're complete history nerds. And this just feels like Disneyland. There's so much to explore and discover. And yeah, it's just been a ton of fun.
It has been. Well, so what do we spend our entertainment dollars on? Look, we do go out to dinner a couple of times a week normally. And for us, normally going out to dinner is 30 to 50 euros. If we really wanted to splurge, you could get close to 100 euros, but we would really have to work and order a lot of stuff to get to 100 euros in terms of, a meal for two here in Portugal.
Yeah, that's very true here on the Silver Coast, but even in Lisbon, that's true, Lisbon and Porto. And sometimes we like to just head down to the beach and grab a glass of wine while we watch the sunset, and that's usually about 3 to 4 euros per person. It's funny that you can get a beer here for less money than a bottle of water.
Well, my biggest splurge here is playing golf. So I joined a golf club that has 2 courses that are world-class courses that are right on the Atlantic Ocean. It's spectacular. And it costs about 2,500 euros for a full year of as much golf as I can play. Now, I do tend to play twice a week, so we travel some, so maybe that's 80 rounds per year. So that's actually a pretty good value, roughly 30 euros per round of golf. It's a pretty good deal. I was a member of a golf course back in California. Now, this would have been 2000 to 2012 that I was a member. And even back then, using those dollars, it would have been 4 to 5 times the cost without an ocean view, one course. It's a lovely course. I really love the course. But it is not these 2 courses up against the Atlantic Ocean, that's for sure. And on top of it, you had to buy into the course at the beginning of it. So it was a lot more expensive honestly for me, for a lot less valuable golf.
I know that you've golfed some of the best courses in the US, and you've said that these courses are among the best you've ever played.
That's absolutely true. And certainly if you were to look at the top golf courses in Portugal and the top golf courses in Europe, these 2 courses would be on that list.
What are the names of them?
West Cliffs and Praia del Rey.
So while Matt is out golfing along the ocean, you'll usually find me in the garden or working on art projects. And those are hobbies that take a lot less of our entertainment dollars as well. If you follow us on Instagram, you may know that we recently went to an outdoor market and bought a bunch of stuff for the garden. So just to give you an idea, if you're a gardener, you can appreciate this. We got a lemon tree, a lime tree, a blackberry bush, 3 tomato plants, a thyme plant, a strawberry plant. I think that's all, maybe a couple more things. And all of that was under 50 euros in super high quality. So that's one example of how much less we pay here in Portugal than we would in the US, where a haul like that would easily be a few $100s.
Yeah, and it's not just gardening. I mean, you spend a lot less on art supplies too.
Yeah, that's right. You can get a huge canvas for painting under 10 euros, and I bought a big thing of clay for under 6 euros. I took a private ceramics class that was 40 euros. All of that would have been so much more expensive in the US. I really do feel like if you're a creative and you love to do a lot of creative things, there's a lot here, not just because it's less expensive, but there's so much inspiration everywhere in Portugal that I really do feel like Portugal in general and Silver Coast in particular is just a dream for artists and creatives.
So for transportation, look, you can get away without having a car in a lot of Portugal, but we actually wanted to get a car because we wanted to be able to explore Portugal. So we bought a 1-year-old car in 2023 when we first moved here. We bought a 1-year-old car, had 19,000 kilometers, which is ballpark 15,000 miles on it. And we paid 22,000 euros for it, which for us, we thought was a good deal, especially since cars tend to be a little bit more expensive here. Car insurance is less expensive. We spend 400 euros per year for full coverage on that car. In addition, there's gas and tolls that we pay. Now, because we drive quite a bit, we spend 180 to 240 euros a month in gasoline, and then we spend 25 to 100 euros in tolls. Now, the tolls really are going to depend on where we're going. A lot of the times, if it's nearby, we can avoid toll roads or the tolls are not all that expensive. But if we're going to go down to the Algarve or to the Lisbon or to Porto, the tolls do add up a little bit, but that's sort of the range we're talking about.
And on those times that we don't feel like driving, we have taken a bus from Nazaré to Lisbon and also to Porto. And these are very clean buses, incredible bus system. And that costs 10 euros, about 10 euros each way. So we think that's a phenomenal deal.
Yeah, you'd actually spend more in tolls than you would on the ticket, on the bus ticket.
It's true.
Well, one of the big cost differences between living here in Portugal and in the United States, at least, has to do with the cost of health care. Now, we have private health insurance, and so the private health insurance, we pay about 450 euros per month for both of us combined. We also have a concierge, a medical concierge, which we pay 275 euros for the full year for each of us. And that allows them to help us navigate the Portuguese healthcare system and find doctors who are highly rated and speak English and take our insurance. So we think that that's really been a good deal. In terms of our insurance, we do have copays. There's no deductible, but the copay is 19 euros for every doctor visit. I recently had a chest x-ray and my portion of that was 10 euros. And recently I also had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. And both of those things combined, my portion was 112 euros. Now, if you've been of the age where you've had a colonoscopy or endoscopy, you know that your portion normally is thousands of dollars. And so having it be just 112 euros, we thought was really a great deal. And from a prescription standpoint, look, you can get paracetamol, which is equivalent of Tylenol, for 90 cents for a pack of 20 500 milligram pills, which is a deal. And I have a statin that I take as a prescription, and it is 4 euros for a 60-day supply.
Feels weird to be giving our medical background on a YouTube video to the public. That feels weird, so be kind. You can also rely on public health care, and those costs are obviously lower. However, we have heard that the public health care system, you may have longer waits than the private health care system, but that's always an option.
Well, one other set of expenses, which is unique to some people but may not be applicable to you, has to do with veterinarians. And so we just recently had our dog go through the whole batch of annual vaccinations that's required. It cost us 65 euros, which is a whole lot less expensive than when he was living in the United States and visiting his own vet there.
So there's always going to be surprises and other miscellaneous expenses, but this is a pretty good overall view of what we pay on a day-to-day basis for cost of living here in Portugal. If you have questions about moving to Portugal, you can leave them in the comments below. We also want to let you know we do have a Moving to Portugal course with a step-by-step guide of everything that you can expect in this process. We'll leave a link for that below.
So this video is about the costs of daily living here in Portugal, but moving to Portugal has a whole different set of costs. And if you're interested in that, you can watch this video here.